All right, this is another very gimmicky one, but nonetheless worth going through. So, especially the way that I'm going to solve it right now, I think is pretty useful to pay attention to. And this one is not quite as important to try on your own because it's just so vague and broad that I just want to show you one solution. So let's just walk through it. And the way we're going to do so is we're actually going to use just use the example as what we're going to emulate. What I mean by that is, first of all, we need an encode function, and we're going to use an arrow key syntax. And we're going to create a hash table. And what I mean by that is an object in JavaScript, because they, under the hood, JavaScript objects allow for constant lookup time. If you don't know what I mean by that, maybe look into hash functions, hash maps as they're also called. But I'm just going to keep going, assuming that makes sense. And we're going to use a unique key. And how we're going to get that is we're going to do date.now, which what that does is I looked at the docs, it gets the number of milliseconds since 1970, January 1st. Might seem a little weird, but I think it's a decent way to get a unique key. And then we're going to shorten it a little with this toString 36, which turns it into, rather than doing like decimal numbers, it does it to 36. So rather than like hexadecimal, for example, we're doing 36 decimal numbers just to make it smaller, so it's not quite so vast. And we're going to say, and then we're actually going to define our object outside of Encode and Decode to make it available within each, so make it global. We're going to say URL is equal, I guess I should use comments there. We're going to say URL object, I should call it URLs, and we're going to say, first we need to set, so let's go to the whiteboard. What we're going to do is we're going to say, let's say this is our URLs object. We're going to say for our URL, for every URL that we're dealing with, we're going to get our unique key as the key. So, and we're going to set that equal to our longer input URL. So our and by doing so, all we need to keep track of is this unique key, which is going to be a lot smaller than our input URL. It's this that we just created right here. And so I'll show you how we set that unique key. So basically just to do this part. And because we called our input long URL, we're just going to set that way. So this is doing this part of it. We're saying URL's unique key is equal to our input URL. So exactly what I just went through. And all we need to do then is return, and we're going to use the example. Like I said before, we're just going to emulate this first part, tinyurl.com, because maybe that's what it wants. Let's just say, just copy that. / and we want to just add our unique key to that. So that's our TinyURL. Our encode function is done. And I'll show you what we get when we return that. That was probably pretty obvious. Let's use this as our... presumably they give it to us as a string. If not, we could always just turn it into a string. And let's say, and let's show you what we get. So this is our unique key that we got at this part. We just tacked that onto TinyURL. And let's do, because we need a decode function that takes that part that we return. Let's just create a variable because I'm going to need to console log that in a minute to show you. So let's say small URL, because that's what we're returning, that I just console logged input. So let's grab it over here. And so what our decode function needs to do is take in that small URL. Let's just call it short URL here. And we need to, given that shorter URL, so as you can see, we have that tinyurl.com attached to it. So we're going to need to break that unique key off of it. And then we just look up what the unique key's value is and return that. So pretty simple. The way we do that is, the way we get the short URL part is we can just say that. So now we're gonna get what split does. It gives us back an array. The first part would be this, this whole part is we're just breaking it down into these two pieces. The 0th index in that array would be this part. The first index would be our unique key, which is what we want. And we want that, so we want the first index. Like I said, we just want the unique key. So this would give us back this part. And just to return it in one line, we could just do, because as you recall, if you want to look up a value in an object, you just say that object and then in brackets that key, and it returns the value, so this part. And if we console log it, just to show you, so now we're taking that small URL part, so the part we return in the first from Encode, because we gave it this, we return the smaller URL, this part. Now when we take that in, we want to return that original key. So we do decode small URL, and we should get the original URL, which is what we get. So I did like this. I mean, I hate this, the way this is laid out for you as the instructions, but I do like this way of solving it. Get you a little practice with working through objects in JavaScript and dealing with constant lookup time. So it's also very efficient, big O wise. And yeah.